Let's go out on video chat now and bring in CBC's Mark Lee, the voice of many of our lives soundtrack. He joins us today. How you doing, Mark? And you hear the guys groaning from the back room.
Not working?
There we go. We got you. Can you bring
Got
Mark
me
back?
now? Okay, here we go.
We got you, Mark. It was an us problem, not a you problem. So, again, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing real well. Thanks for having me on the show.
People are writing in already, Mark. They're asking if you, under normal circumstances, would be at the Calgary Stampede right now, rocking the Stetson and Wranglers. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I sure have. It's a big void in my summer and a lot of my colleagues' summer as well. I think right, we're getting ready for our opening, a day 4, day 5 opening at the Calgary Stampede as we hit the halfway mark. So, it's really unprecedented when you think that the Calgary Stampede has never been canceled in more than a century. Even that come hell or high water Stampede we had back in 2013, when they had like 2 weeks to clear the debris and the damage that had been left by those floodwaters. They managed to pull it off. But, there's more than 900 people that would have been working this year at the Stampede, and they're not working. And so, my thoughts are with them right now.
No doubt. Calgary's just continued to take it over and over and over again. But I got a lot of things to get to with you, Mark. I will just say this. The other day I put on professional bull riding. I do watch it regularly. Grew up with it. You're calling it. And I'm like, this is pre-pandemic because there's a crowd here. But you did a really good job, Mark. I mean, as far as being on the air, you're like a cowboy now. What's the deal?
I'm a store-bought cowboy with the rhinestones and everything that goes with it. You know what? I mean, those PBR events from Calgary and Lethbridge, the Calgary show took place in January, the last week of January, and the Lethbridge show was in the first week of March, and we never got a chance to package those. And so the PBR folks asked if we could somehow figure out a technical way to call those events in post-production to get them on the air for TSN. And so here's what happened. I've never done anything like this before. I ended up driving into Toronto about 2 weeks ago to a private voiceover studio where they put me in the voiceover booth, turned off the air conditioning so none of the air would circulate. And I didn't come face-to-face with our technician in Toronto. He used Pro Tools and something called Starlight, which is like an industrial-sized Zoom, and managed to connect Scotty Schiffner, the great Canadian bull riding champion, in another studio in Lethbridge, Alberta. All right, so he's in Lethbridge. Managed to show us the video in real time and the audio. And then our producer, Larry Isaac, is in his basement watching on a laptop in Vancouver. And he's in my headset in real time, giving me cues. And he can also talk to Scott Schiffner. And somehow in the wash, it all came out.
Came out great. It's the future of broadcasting, as we talk a lot around here. I really enjoyed it. So, Mark, let me. There's just an absolute avalanche of comments from our viewers here that have questions for you. Personally, from Mike Abu-Meshrich's perspective and mine, Abu is in here. Can you please give us your thoughts on the 2007 Grey Cup, which I know for a fact is the last you called on CBC. Hopefully it comes back again. But that day, Riders 23, Bombers 19, sold out Rogers Centre. What do you remember about it? Because I've never asked you your perspective.
Well, it was an emotional game for me because it was the last CFL game I ever called. It was the tail end of our rights package with CBC before TSN took over with the entire schedule and playoffs and Grey Cup in 2008. So I was working with Chris Walby in the Rogers Centre, and it was a great back and forth game. Dinwiddie, the Winnipeg quarterback, I think he came in because the Bombers had lost
Kevin Glenn.
Who was there? Kevin Glenn, had injured his arm. So Dinwiddie had absolutely no experience, and so the Bombers were in, a bit of a jackpot there. And I just remember it being a terrific defensive game, and a game in which we sat afterwards, Chris and I, in the booth for probably an hour, just sort of thinking about what we'd done in the CFL in terms of our commentary and how this was the end. And so it It was my third Grey Cup as a play-by-play announcer. It was exciting to do, but in the end, it was kind of bittersweet.
A lot of our viewers writing in, for instance, Mike in Phoenix says, I really miss CFL on CBC. Probably no more than you do, Mark. I mean, what's your thoughts watching the CFL since it left the CBC?
Well, I mean, I love the CFL. I had the most fun as a broadcaster covering the CFL. And I played football in university, and so it's kind of, football is the game that's closest to my heart. I just love the broadcasts. I love the team we worked with. I thought we had a great team with the big man Bluto Walby in the booth, Brian Williams, and then Elliot Friedman hosting our pregame show with Greg Frères and that gang, Darren Flutie. It was a great crew, and I really enjoyed the competitive nature we had with TSN, having two networks covering the same league. It really drove us to come up with something new every week and to really showcase the game the best way we could.
One more for you, Mark. Your thoughts on the state of the CFL right now, how you think it should go, how you feel about the way the leaders are leading at this time. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, the league has never been better. The caliber of football has never been better. It's never been better run. It's funny, preparing for my appearance today, I was looking back into the 90s and just what a state of disrepair the league was in, with the Rickmans and the Gleibermans and teams in trouble and these various Save Our Stamps, and the Ticats and all these organizations that were, in deep trouble, and how the league has really come together and flourished. In terms of dealing with COVID-19 and going forward, I mean, I don't know how they can play a sport like football without a vaccine. I just don't know. I mean, you're going to bring all these athletes together. You're going to test them every day, put them in a bubble. I don't see how it can be done without so many athletes getting sick.
Yeah, they're telling me that we've got a few more minutes here, Mark, and I don't really want to let you go. So in terms of your prep, you throw out whatever you want. I will say this. The last I heard your iconic voice was the Vanier Cup last year, Montreal, Calgary. Fantastic game. You and Justin Dunk. I loved it. I'd never actually seen Laval before. It looked amazing. So let me ask you this. It doesn't sound great for the CFL based on what you're saying, because there's not going to be a vaccine for 2021 minimum. So the new CFL, if there is one, could you envision a Moncton, a Quebec City, a Kelowna? I mean, what do you think is possible for Canadian pro football?
For sure, a Moncton. I mean, I'd love to see the league go to 10 teams and be truly coast to coast. Quebec City has an incredible passion for college football with Laval, and that might be a tough fit in terms of the pro game, getting some elbow room there. They're really protective of the Rouge et Or and that program and support it so well. They have a great rivalry with the Carabin in Montreal. So I think, they've got a niche there that might be hard to displace. Moncton, for sure. I'd love to see the league get to 10 teams coast to coast, for sure.
Me too. Listen, Naboo, you got to say something to Mark Lee. Can you tell him the story that you told me before he came on?
I'm like nervous here.
Just tell him.
Well,
it's a great story.
Well, hearing your voice your voice echoes through the halls of my home growing up. I mean, on the weekends, if we were home, the TV was on, and we were listening.
But you thought he was Chris Cuthbert. Tell him that part.
Oh, that you're calling me out. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Yes, I am. It's great.
Good thing it's your show, Pedersen.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but he met you at a game. Tell him.
And then when I met you at a game and you introduced yourself, I was like, I think I just called him Chris.
Do you remember that, Mark?
It must have been 2000, 2001 maybe in Winnipeg, but your voice, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that's what you look like, because your voice, I mean, it's iconic. It's everywhere. It represents, if there was a soundtrack to my life, just puttering around the house, raising kids, farting around, mowing the lawn. You would be sorry about the farting around.
Thank you, Abu.
Thank you.
You remember that, Mark? You remember that?
I do, and Mike, please don't feel badly, because it's not the first time someone's called me Chris. I grew up as a broadcaster working side by side with Chris Cuthbert, and and I was a student of his great play-by-play as I tried to improve my broadcast. So, I've been confused with Chris. We have been over the years. I've even had fellow broadcasters in visiting cities doing hockey games come up and say, "Hey, Chris, do you have the lines?" Just keep letting it go.
Let it go, yeah. Mark, this has been awesome. Let's do it again. And thank you for all the support. I really appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Rod.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.